It's time to review old games and chew bubblegum, and I'm all out of gum. Around my parts, whenever someone talks about the Duke Nukem games, Duke Nukem 3D seems to be their first encounter with this series. But the Duke Nukem platformers are rarely talked about. A lot of people actually think Duke Nukem 3D was the first game. Personally, my first encounter with Mr. Nukem was the shareware episode of Duke Nukem II. It was developed and published by Apogee Software in 1993 for MS-DOS computers as a follow-up to the original Duke Nukem and featured major technological improvements. We went from this to this. Starting the game will greet you with that sweet Apogee jingle. And after that, you get the intro where we hear Duke talk for the first and only time in the game, voiced by Joe Ziegler.
I am back.
The story is that after defeating Dr. Proton in the first game, Duke is on a TV being interviewed about his new book, Why I'm So Great, but is abducted by aliens who want to use his brain to take over Earth. Unfortunately for the aliens, Duke escapes and starts making trouble. From the main menu you can start a new game, load one up, mess around with the game settings, replay the intro or read the game instructions. And I think I mentioned this previously, but I just loved these help sections in old DOS games. It was such a cool and convenient way to quickly explain the game without going through a lengthy tutorial, and it always had cool tidbits in it. Start the game, choose your preferred difficulty, wait a bit for the level to load and jump into action. You control Duke using the arrow keys, jump using control key and fire a weapon using the alt key. And that's about it. The controls can feel a little stiff, but in my opinion it doesn't affect the game too much. Your goal in pretty much every level is the same, get to the exit and rack up as many points as possible by killing enemies, collecting stuff from chests and whatnot. After you finish a level, you can receive even more secret bonuses depending on various conditions like time, destroyed cameras, enemies and such. But what are you going to do most of the time? Well, Duke's answer to everything is shooting it. Shooting enemies, shooting cameras, shooting force fields, shooting cans, shooting is love, shooting is life. You can shoot boxes to reveal various pickups. Blue chests will contain collectibles, white ones keys, key cards, cloaking devices or rapid fire upgrades. Green ones can contain one of the 3 extra weapons, and red ones, well, red ones are a bitch. Some of them contain soda cans, atomic health or turkey, all of which can restore your health. But most of the time, they'll contain a bomb, which will explode and hurt you if you don't run away. It's something that was carried over from the first game, which I'm not a fan of, the mechanic of the game, and it's more of an annoyance as I always felt that's where I lost most of my health, and it often caused me to stop for a moment, breaking the flow of the game. They blow up normally after a short delay, which gives you ample time to take cover. But a lot of items in-game react to shooting, including the bomb, which will then explode immediately. That means that whenever you see a red box, you'll have to be extra careful with your shots. Those explosions can also destroy other boxes and power-ups if they're on the ground, which can be a bummer when you see a 6-pack of soda being blown up. And yeah, Duke drank soda before he became a beer-drinking slob in DNF. You'll be blasting your way through 4 episodes, each containing 8 levels and a boss fight, destroying enemies, wreaking havoc, collecting Duke merchandise and generally kicking alien butt. And the kicking butt soundtrack is one of the most memorable parts of the game. The music was composed by no one other than Bobby Prince, the same mastermind behind the music of the Commander Keen games, and who would later on create this soundtrack to the legendary Doom. The tracks are amazingly memorable, especially the main menu and the first level of music titled He's Back. If I had to pick 3 of my favorite tracks, I'd go with Kick Butt, You Be Dead, and Squeak. Of course, Bobby Prince's work is highly inspired by metal music, so it should be of no surprise that you can hear parts of songs that sound oddly familiar, like the intro riff in the first level being pretty much the intro riff of Megadeth's Angry Again. Or another example is the track Nukem, which opening sounds nearly identical to the riff from Metallica's Enter Sandman. There's probably more of this stuff, but I don't mind as they're just small portions and are not copied verbatim. The music is fantastic and holds up on its own, and I appreciate that. The other memorable thing about Duke Nukem 2 is its levels. It's not about the layout, but rather the graphical design. Each level has a unique look and atmosphere, meaning that there aren't 2 levels in the game that feel similar, which is neat. A lot of platformers reused same tile sets for usually 2 levels in a row or even more. Duke Nukem 2 also reuses tile sets, but not as often. One moment you're in prison, the next one in the mountains. Few levels later deep underground where lava is flowing everywhere. And before you know, you're in an alien jungle lab. How cool is that? But not everything you see in Duke Nukem 2 is original graphics. Just like the previous game, a lot of sprites have been ripped off from Turrican, and it's beyond the point of being inspired by it. It's on the line of actual copyright infringement. Not cool, Apogee. Not cool. Overall, Duke Nukem 2 is a pretty good old-school side-scroller. Why only good though? Well, there's a number of small things that annoy me and negatively impact the experience. For starters, Duke takes up way too much screen space, and the game suffers from being too zoomed in. This makes it difficult to avoid enemies coming off screen, meaning there's a certain degree of memorization where things are needed. While the game does provide a radar, it is completely useless as it only shows enemies that are visible on screen already, so what's even the point? This means you'll be taking a lot of damage from cheap shots. Thankfully, Duke can take quite a few hits before giving up the ghost. This whole thing, however, unfortunately can make the game a lot harder than it should be. Another thing is that in a lot of levels I ended up at the exit just to realize I have not found the proper keycard or key, and cannot continue. Often those things are packed away from the regular path of the level and you'll need to explore a bit to find them, but once you're at the exit, you're screwed. And you'll have to do one of the worst things in gaming: backtrack all the way and search everything once again. This also applies to levels with the damn satellite dishes. Finding the last one is always a pain. Not all levels are like this though, and only a select few feel a little convoluted. And the boss fights seem kind of lame. It's mostly a case of outliving them and dishing out as many shots as you can during the invincibility period. Boring. The game also doesn't introduce a lot of new elements further down the line, only some new enemy types, so it can feel a little repetitive. It's almost like the game blows its load in the first few levels. So, would I recommend going back to it? Well, kind of. It's still a good platforming game that can be a little annoying at first, but you can get used to it. I'd say it's best placed in short bursts, for example a single episode in one sitting. And well, even for the music alone, I'd recommend giving it a shot. My name has been TRG and thanks for watching. I will see you in the next video of some kind of sorts. See ya!